Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Martin and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about theme. So, as part of our one-pager assignment, you have to determine the theme of the book that you've read. And there are a couple of really simple steps that you can walk through that will help you to figure out the theme no matter what it is that you've read. Before we get to those steps though, let's talk about what a theme actually is. The theme is the author's opinion presented repeatedly throughout a book. Okay? Now, what's kind of tricky about this is that authors give a lot of different ideas and opinions through a book, but how do you know if it's the theme? Well, I'll give you some hints. The theme is not a one-word answer. It is never stated by the author directly. So the author's never going to say, hey, the theme of this story is family. It's not going to be a one-word answer. It's not going to be stated directly by the author. It is not a moral. It is not a lesson. Yeah, you absolutely can infer, different morals and lessons from what you've read, but that's still not a theme. So if it's not a theme, then what in the world is a theme? Well, let's consider it. A theme is always an idea that repeats. It always applies to all humans in life, and it always can be supported through the details of the story. Okay? So that gives you an idea that we're talking about the author's opinion that repeats, that applies to all people. Doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter what time in history it is, and it also can be supported through the details of the story. So let's go into these steps so that we can start really figuring out what the theme is of your book. Step 1, read the whole book. You cannot determine a theme from the first chapter. You cannot determine a theme from the first few pages. You have to read the whole book to see where the ideas repeat and where the ideas are emphasized. After you've read the whole book, step 2 is to list the topics that repeat throughout the book. So, when we talked in our class Google Meet this week, we talked about the book The Outsiders. And the topics or ideas that repeat throughout that book that your classmates came up with included brotherhood, loyalty, gangs, stereotypes, violence, redemption. So those were just some of the ideas, those topics that your classmates said repeated throughout the book. Now, our next job is to try to take one of those ideas and turn them into a sentence. Now, the sentence part is key because it shows whether or not this is just a general topic that floats throughout the story or if there's an actual message here that the author is trying to get across. So, your sentence stem is now and will always be the same. And it simply is this. The author believes that. Now, this sentence stem can be used for any book, any genre. It always works. You have to ask yourself how one of these topics turns into a sentence that begins with the author believes that. So what does the author believe about brotherhood? What does the author believe about loyalty or stereotypes or gangs or redemption or violence? If you can figure out how to word that into a sentence, now you're getting into theme territory. So your classmates in the Google Meet came up with the idea that for brotherhood, the author believes that brotherhood doesn't just exist between actual blood brothers. Now, That is a complete thought. We know that the idea of brothers pops up multiple times in the story. So this could be a good theme. In order to make sure it's good, we have to revise and check. When we revise, what we're doing is we're simply getting rid of the author believes and focusing on this part. That would be our theme statement. So now we have to check. And that means we have to come up with examples from the book that shows that there were bonds between people who were not blood related, but who still considered each other brothers. Your classmates today came up with Pony and Johnny, as well as Dally and Johnny. Now, if we're being lazy about it, we could say, all right, we're done. We've got some examples. We've got a statement. We're good. Let's go. But here's the problem. We didn't really drill down and explain our examples. So let's take a moment to do that. When we think about Pony and Johnny showing brotherhood, where does that get shown? Right away from early on in the novel, Johnny kills Bob to protect Pony. Pony runs away with Johnny to make sure he's not alone and to protect him. Because remember, Pony didn't do anything illegal until he ran away. So that means that this example, this one works. We like that one, okay? Dally and Johnny. Well, we have to think back. We know that Johnny always looked up to Dally, but when did Dally really show that brotherhood and that bond? Well, he's the one who gave money, a gun, and a plan to Johnny when Johnny committed murder. Without Dally, Johnny wouldn't know what to do, where to go. Additionally, Dally saved Johnny from the burning church, right? If you remember, Dally didn't want to go near that burning church, and he got really annoyed that the boys did, and ultimately he didn't care about saving the kids. He was concerned about saving Johnny, okay? So that checks out as well. So what we've got here is a really strong theme, okay? We're going to use the same process with a different example. So this time, our example is going to be about loyalty. So we can check off brotherhood. We did that one. We're going to work on loyalty now, okay? So for loyalty, we need to come up with a sentence. The author believes that, and the answer that one of your classmates came up with was that loyalty can save lives, okay? So let's think about that. We're at the revise and check part, which means that we're going to revise by getting rid of this, and we're left with loyalty can save lives. That's a complete sentence. It's a complete thought. It's general. It applies to all people. So far, so good. Now let's check and make sure we have the proof that we need. And the proof that we need in The Outsiders is fairly straightforward. Whose life gets saved? Well, Pony's life gets saved by Johnny, because Johnny was loyal to Pony Boy and protected him from Bob. Johnny's life gets saved by Dally, because Dally ultimately risked his own life to pull Johnny out of a burning building, right? We can also say that Pony was saved by his own brother, Soda Pop, because during the big rumble, if you remember, Pony Boy was getting kicked in the head, and Soda Pop, he finds out later on, was the one that went over and beat that guy up because he did not want his little brother picked on, right? So we see that lives are being saved all over the place in The Outsiders. And why are they being saved? Because of loyalty. Because these guys would not let each other suffer. They wanted to save each other when they could, okay? So this is just a quick little example of how to tease out the theme in your story. As I said, it should work no matter what you've read. So, a couple of key things to keep in mind. When you are writing about theme, Make sure that your theme statement is the very first part of the paragraph. Make sure that you give specific text evidence. So it might be a good idea to cite a certain part of the story. Gee, sounds like it's a good opportunity to use the race strategy, doesn't it? If you're struggling while working on the one-pager, you need a little help figuring out the theme, then please make sure that you reach out for your teacher. We are all available by email and very happy to help you. Have a good day.